To everybody out there that's tuning in right now to Radio Nukalofa and also going to be watching this on social media, I've got a special guest here. I've got Todd Henry over here from Four Shells. Welcome to the Kinamatonga.
Oh, malo lele.
Todd, I think the first question I have for you is to talk about yourself and also the inspiration behind starting Four Shells Kava Lounge in New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand.
Yeah, about myself. Ko hoku hingoa, ko Todd Marvel Henry. Ko aku amali me Tonga, ko anau me Sui Henry. And yeah, it's good to be in here in Tonga. I come here quite often, so I'm very fortunate to have that connection, and been coming here regularly since 2007. And yeah, the connection with kava and the inspiration behind Four Shells kind of started very simply. I was, I'm originally from the United States, came to New Zealand around 2003, was there on and off for a while, met my wife in 2008, married into this big Tongan family in 2010, and realized I don't know anything about Tongan language, Tongan culture. So they said you should go and fight kava.
Yeah.
So I just tried to surround myself with that in that space, either here in Tonga or in the community back in New Zealand, in Mangere. And then I just got into kava for what it is and start studying it and quit drinking alcohol just naturally. You know, I like the way that kava brings people together and you have social time, but you're not getting drunk and no silly stuff happening, you know? So it's, over time I got more, traveled to some different places in the Pacific, Vanuatu, Hawaii, Fiji, and so forth, and saw kava in different contexts and started thinking about, there's not just one way of having kava, but the principles, that you see in a fight kava are always there. Everyone's respectful and welcoming. So I started hosting some kava sessions just at my house and invite some Palangi friends around, people from all backgrounds, and people really liked it. So we just took it from there, and then we teamed up with a friend of ours at Kava Society in New Zealand, and we started doing some pop-up events in Auckland, just in cafes after hours, and people came, and we saw there was interest, and then we decided to make the jump to start Four Shells, and here we are today.
Talking about the Four Shells, I know a few of my relatives and friends in Auckland. A big fan of Four Shells or Four Shells Kava Lounge. You spoke about you getting into or marrying into this big Tongan family and getting into kava, studying it, but also the decision to make that exclusive space in Auckland.
Yep. If you get to know kava well, like I did, I felt like it deserved a own space, a dedicated space for kava. So yeah, that's the main thing we have there is kava and just some small snacks and things. We don't sell soft drinks. We don't sell any alcohol, no other stuff. It was just that kind of mindset of putting it somewhere like near Auckland City where it's accessible to people who wouldn't otherwise have access. Kava is generally, especially in New Zealand, outside the Pacific community, is quite misunderstood. People think it's alcohol. They think it's like weed, or they have we've heard everything, or they just think it does nothing. So we decided we put kava in a dedicated location that will kind of capture people's attention or just curiosity and say, okay, I never thought that kava could be its own thing, by itself. So people come in and then we just teach them about kava. I think if it was if you had a cafe or a bar or something, just had kava off on the side as an offering, it wouldn't bring people in quite the same. But we believe kava is a very special thing and deserves that pride of place.
The name is Four Shell. How did you come up with the name, and what significance does it hold to you?
So I actually wanted to give it a Tongan name, but my wife said, we want it to appeal to everybody. So we should give it a whakapalangi name so people can see it and not feel intimidated, like, oh, this isn't a space that I might be welcome in or something like that. Because, again, those misconceptions people have. And I think the misconceptions with kava, even, they butt up against racism in many ways. So obviously when you walk inside, there's a lot of elements of Pacific Island symbolism in there and things like that. But yeah, 4 shells. We got, we're lucky enough to have 4 kids, my wife and I. You think of the kumete, 4 legs, the fa'i kola. I just think the number 4 plays in a lot. And we, and also at the kava we mix and at the strength we make it, it gives an indication about how many shells people would want to have before they should start feeling the effects. Yeah, because people, they come in knowing nothing about kava. They don't know if they're going to feel it from one shell or have to stay there all night. So, and we always try to just keep it consistent with the quality of the kava, the strength of the kava that we mix and everything. So, yeah.
We'll be talking about the quality and the strength and the different strand of kava. Please explain how each of the 4 golden principles that you've mentioned on your website. Please explain that. Its integrity into daily operations and community culture for the lounge.
Yeah, so, the respect, love, reciprocity, humility, the maintenance of relationships, interpersonal relationships are all embodied in the fa'i kawe kola. And I think it's, these are principles that are, we talk about it in the way like it's Tonga specific, but I say you could go anywhere in the world and uphold those principles in your way of interacting with people and behaving, and you really can't go wrong, if you embody that. And I really feel that's what the kava space embodies. You might come in after a long day, maybe at work, things happen, people feel angry, they feel stressed. You sit down with your friends, have a few shells of kava, and all of it seems to melt away, and you're not angry about things anymore. And we also wanted to center it on those principles because, again, if people think that kava is alcohol or it's a party thing or you use it to get high or whatever, it's they get the wrong idea. But when you center it on those things, they say, oh, this is something else. This is not just a drink. It's something that symbolizes certain values, but it also brings people together. And it is a drink, too, so...
These principles, why are these principles particularly important for your business?
Well, it ties it back to Tonga. I mean, if not for Tonga and my wife's family's connection with kava, my father-in-law Sione Atiai always sold kava, pounded kava. It's part of their story, My wife's family came to New Zealand in the 80s and ended up as overstayers there. It was very hard for them to survive. So they would sell kava, and then once they got their visas and everything sorted, they would come back here, tuki kava, bring it back to New Zealand, sell it, load up a container with the old ringer washing machines, bring it back here, sell those. So we wanted to make the foundation of principles something that is relevant to the place that it all came from. We didn't invent kava, of course. We didn't invent fight kava. We invented nothing. We just took kava and put it in a space that's accessible to everybody.
You mentioned putting kava and putting into to a space that's accessible to everyone. Can you share any memorable stories or events that highlighted the community spirits within the lounge or the Four Shells Lounge?
Well, yeah, I mean, we opened in 2019, right before COVID happened, and it was kind of a little bit of a side project. Nobody had ever done it before, and I was working on and off here in Tonga, and then COVID happened, so we all had to go back, and everything was crazy, and everyone was stressed. The whole world didn't know what was coming next. Is this thing going to last for the next 20 years? Is everybody going to get sick from this? But around that time in New Zealand, we were lucky that there was no COVID. So a strong community formed in Four Shells at that time. People took refuge there. Nobody was able to travel anywhere. Some people, it was in the media, people were just staying at home drinking alcohol. And after a little while of that, people wanted to escape that. They're like, oh, there's this new place in Auckland, and they serve kava, but it felt like they were doing something new at first, and then they came, and now because of that time where everybody stayed there together and supported each other and had just deep conversations over kava and helped each other. That really, still today, they're like some of the guys that come almost every day. They're from that time. So we have a lot of stories like that.
And talking about stories, and you mentioned many times that probably through your studies or getting to know kava, you also wanted to educate people on what kava really is. They have this perception of kava. So it'll tie into my next question: is how do you educate your customers about kava and its significance in Pacific culture?
Yep. Well, I always gauge when they come in. I try to find out what they know or what they think they know. Sometimes with kava, we're teaching them what kava is not. The most common one with Kiwis anyway, Palangis, they'll come in, they've had kava once in Fiji on holiday. They would have been at the resort. They're on holiday, they're already drinking beer and wine. Then it's time for the formal welcoming into the resort, and they'll be served one shell of kava. They'll drink it and go, oh, I don't like the taste. I don't feel it. Must not do anything. So those ones, then I explain about you shouldn't mix it with alcohol. There is a thing called reverse tolerance. The first time you have kava, you might not feel it. That's very common. Or people feel like they drink a lot of it before they feel the effects. Once we can, get people to start thinking differently about it than what they initially thought, then we find they become open to it. They might say things, oh, but it doesn't taste nice. Or they drank it once and they hated the taste. And I say, well, that tells me you didn't feel the effects of kava. If I've never met anyone who has drank kava, felt the effects, and still complained about the taste. It's bitter, but, I say as well, kava should be bitter just like a tattoo should hurt. People still get tattoos. So I have an answer for anything anybody comes and throws at me.
Todd, you mentioned in one of your answers before, especially when you're explaining the meaning behind the name, where you have the 4 pillars and your 4 kids and having the 4 legs on the kumete, and it represents you sitting around the kava bowl and having a talanoa. My next question to you, Todd, is what role do meaningful talanoa conversation play in the experience at the Four Shell Kava Lounge?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when we look at kava as just the drink, I think that's only half of what it is. The other half, your kava is only as good as the talanoa that you have and the people that you have kava with. So those kava mixes that go all night where people don't want to go home, it's not because, the kava is so good and we got so kona or whatever. It's that the conversation went deep and it was meaningful and it brought people together. This is an abstract idea if you're presenting kava to people in a place where alcohol is the norm. Because the mindset is, why would you drink something that doesn't taste nice if it's not getting you drunk or high? And there are effects to kava, but that's not the point. So, we just let people know that it's for that function of bringing people together. And, most people can get it once we explain it in that way. It's much easier if somebody comes into Four Shells from a tea drinking culture or South America where they drink the yerba mates. Because it's just, it's not about drinking those drinks. It's the excuse. Oh, you want to get together and have some kava? It's not really about the kava in some ways, So it's a thing to be shared. But once we break through that abstract, way of thinking for Palangis, they get it really easily. And I think, I don't consider myself an expert on kava. Like when we get into talking about the taumafa kava and all these protocols, I learn as much as I can about it, but I don't know it like somebody from Tonga or somebody from Samoa knows their ways and things. But I think my strength is being able to take what I know and translating it into the Palangi mindset and then making them understand.
And talking about translating it to the Palangi mindset or translating it to somebody that's unfamiliar with kava, for those that's unfamiliar with kava, can you explain what it is and also the benefit it offers?
Yeah, this is kind of the pitch I use at Four Shells if people come in and they don't know what it is. I say it's a plant from the South Pacific. We consume the roots, from Tonga, Fiji, Samoa, Hawaii, Vanuatu. All these places, kava is consumed, but it's also a very important plant culturally. And then I'll generally explain that it doesn't have alcohol. It is Technically, it's a mild soporific and an anti-anxiolytic, so it's like it'll help you sleep but not knock you out. Takes anxiety away, or it alleviates it, and it relaxes your body, but your mind is clear. And I just tell people that it's good for sitting down and spending time with people. I tell people it's like the opposite of coffee. You know, you might start your day with coffee, get things going, get some work done. But in the Palangi world, people start with coffee, they run hard all day. At the end of the day, how do they unwind? A lot of people are just getting drunk. We know that's not healthy. Kava serves that opposite effect of taking the edge off, bringing you down gently, and get you ready for the next day.
I feel like a kava just hearing you explain the benefits of kava. Talking about the kava, the strand, and I know I said I was going to touch on it later on. How do you ensure the kava you serve is of premium quality? And this is where I want you to touch on strands, not just from Tonga, but the other Pacific Islands.
Yeah, so the quality is a very important thing to us at Four Shells because people are coming. I figure when they come through the door, we have one chance to turn them into kava drinkers, you know? So we have to have really good quality kava. It's got to be consistent every time. The secret for us is just making connections with suppliers that we trust and know always sends the good stuff. So most of our kava is we serve from Vanuatu. They separate it out by the cultivars. And some people, they'll come in not knowing anything about kava. 1 or 2 months later, they come in and ask for only certain varieties. Now, the certain cultivars of kava were, that's why we call them cultivars. They were cultivated over thousands of years for certain effects. So if you're going and harvesting all these different ones and mixing them together, it's hard to control the consistency of the effects that people will expect. I think it is a roll of the dice in some places. Like over here, I know they have a habit. They mix them together, and sometimes people say, "Ooh, the kava was real good last night." But if you don't know exactly what was in it, you have a hard time replicating that. Also, we serve kava that it's only made from the root stock and the stump. We don't use adding any of the stems and things. I know they do that here in Tonga, and that's fine for the local market here. But we've identified that. Palangis, they're not sitting for 8-10 hours in a kalapu and mixing. They finish work. We open at 4 p.m. at Four Shells. People will come in at various times, but they'll stay. They'll have a few shells of stronger kava, and that's it. They go home and get a good sleep. We find that the kava with the stem added it takes longer to feel the effects. But also the next day people feel a little bit drowsy or more lazy after that. Try it. Try some kava with just roots and stump, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But if we look at traditionally, the kava was always consumed just the roots and the stump, especially in Vanuatu, and they would have been drinking kava mata, so not dried. Man, 2 or 3 shells of that puts you in a real good place, man. Yeah.
Which in the Pacific, I know, don't say Tonga because you're biased to Tonga because your wife's Tongan, but which do you, in your experience with the Four Shells Kava Lounge, has the best kava in the Pacific?
Well, I mean, that's a matter of personal opinion, I think, but the supply that we get from Vanuatu, where they separate out the cultivars and are very careful about the selection of the plants and the age of the plants and the cleanliness in the processing and the meticulous little details, that's the one that's most popular. We also have Fijian kava that's very popular. They have similar processing standards to the Vanuatu one. But in saying that, I know you told me not to mention Tonga, but Tonga has very good cultivars of kava. Like I've come here a few times and we go out to Uta and dig up a plant and make kava mata. It's the best. It's like lekahina, kava kula, excellent kava. It's the difference is it's not that the plants are different. The difference is what happens after it's harvested. Is it cleaned properly? Is it dried in a place that keeps it clean? Keep mold out of it? Is it cleaned with clean water? How's it packaged? How's it stored? What stuff has been added to it? That's that's the big difference there. So yeah, but personally, there's two different like families of cultivars. There's the noble varieties; those are the ones we drink, and then there's 2-day. There's no 2-day here in Tonga. I've had it before. It's usually from Papua New Guinea or Solomon Islands. They have it in Vanuatu as well. It's very heavy, very sedating. I don't really like those ones. But traditionally, they would have been used for different medicinal purposes. So,
Todd, I know we've been speaking about the Four Shells Kava Lounge and the benefits and how it attracts people to come in, and it's a talanoa sort of situation. I'm going to be asking you what have been some of the biggest challenges you face in running the Four Shells Kava Lounge, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, well, the obvious one is battling the misconceptions, but now 5 years into it, we have ways, like I said, I have an answer for anyone. The biggest challenge in getting started, and many people are surprised by this, was finding a place that would actually, our landlord that would actually rent us a space for kava. We went, I don't even know how many places, we went through looking at, and as soon as we said kava, no way. And this is what I said, it butts up against racism in New Zealand. We had people just shoot it down, laugh at the idea, this won't work, or say, oh, we don't want drunk Samoans laying in the gutter. Honestly, man, it was crazy. It took me back. And the space we're in now in Victoria Park Markets has worked out. But when we were going through all this, I remember thinking, man, if this one doesn't work out, I'm just going to give up on this project. This is crazy. So, maybe it would have been different out in South Auckland, and there are other kava bars out there, like Fijian ones. But when you take it into the city, people they don't want it there. It's that was a challenge.
This is a question to spark up with what you just answered. Why was it important for you to be in the city? You just mentioned it would have been easier in South Auckland, but why was it important for you? Your wife and your family and the business to be in the city?
Well, everyone talks about Auckland. It's the largest Polynesian city. It's the capital of Polynesia. People, they're flying from all over the world with this in mind. They come into
when they have a mate matonga or ikaletahi match in Auckland, it's a Tongan.
Yeah,
it's a Tongan. It's our home. What do you call it? Home advantage, because everyone's there.
That's it. And then people, they fly from all over the world. They come into Auckland City and they walk around with, where's all the Polynesian stuff? Where's all the Maori stuff? It's very, there's some gift shops and that's about it. And we talked to people over the years that were surprised by this. People aren't traveling to Aotearoa, New Zealand, to experience some British Commonwealth at the bottom of the world. They are coming knowing this is the Pacific. They know the connection, the proximity to the Polynesian islands. They know about Maori culture, and they want to experience that. So when people come, a lot of times are surprised that there's very little representation in the city itself. So that's one reason why it was important. And just to do something that nobody ever had done before, and put it in a place that, again, give kava this central pride of place that's visible and accessible to everybody.
I have to say, from a personal note, I went over to Auckland to watch the Dave Chappelle show, and coming off the Dave Chappelle show was in the Spark Arena around that area, and we had dinner at somewhere near the viaduct, and ended up at your place. So when they drove me to your place, I'm like, whoa, a kava club in Victoria Park. It was amazing, and it was eye opening to come in and enjoy the kava that you guys had at the Four Shells. I think we've spoken about the Four Shells Kava Lounge and from how it started to how you originate with the name and challenges you've gone through. Now the question I have is, what achievements are you most proud of since opening the lounge?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. There's a lot. I mean, just the fact that it's still there, it survived COVID and all these things is a huge achievement. The community that's formed around it is really special. It's a community of people who mostly met each other in that space. Wow. And they're all really tight now. Everybody is friendly, and I always joke around with them. I say, man, did you guys have friends before we opened this place? Because now everybody's friends in there. And also just the number of people that we've turned into kava drinkers through giving them the experience and the helping them appreciate it for what it is and the understanding of what it is. And yeah, I think that's a huge achievement in itself. I wish I had a number on how many people have come through that we've converted their way of thinking about it. And I think that translates to, it's not just their way of thinking about kava. It translates to the way they think about Pacific Island culture. And they might be Palangi or any other race, but they see me and my wife and our kids and all this mixture of people in Four Shells, and it changes the way they think about it. Like somebody said one time, you come in on a Friday night, it's like the UN in there. There's people from all different backgrounds, and everybody's really just mellow and enjoying time together. But another thing I thought about this recently, we've made significant progress in people understanding that kava is different, because when we first opened, or the first couple of years, we used to get people coming in all the time like drunk or wanting to bring beers in, and that doesn't really happen as much anymore. It's like people know now, oh, that's not the place for that. Whereas before the mindset was like, oh yeah, kava, let's party. Well, now they know. So,
what are future aspirations for Four Shells Kava Lounge, and how do you envision the lounge evolving into the coming years?
Yeah, we just want to keep pushing kava and the understanding of kava in New Zealand, and being advocates for kava. And I mean, we've already expanded a little bit. We started with the one space, but now we've taken over the space next door. We call it the Fale Talanoa. We just put falas down on the ground and mix like traditional style. We opened that officially last September, and the first group we had come through there for an exhibition was the Seleka Boys, and that was really successful. That was really cool. So we want to use that space more, or we are using it more, for community events, music stuff, photo exhibitions, art exhibitions, anything. We have like talanoas in there on topics that are very important to the community. There's some of the women have organized a women's kalapu. Kalapu are Kava Women International, and they mix once a month in there, or at least they sometimes come more. There's like we've been doing a kava and like painting talanoa program in there. It's called it's an initiative called Kava X, and we want to grow more things like that, and maybe open another Four Shells somewhere else. But we're just taking it as it comes, and we'll probably end up getting to that point. But we like to, in the spirit of kava, we don't rush.
Todd, before we get into our last question, the first time I've heard of the Four Shells Kava Lounge is famous Hollywood actor Jason Momoa posted about it. Just talk about that posting. Did it do what it normally does with these celebrities posting, going and liking a business? Did it attract more people coming into the business?
Yeah, I remember I woke up one morning, we had like 800 new followers. I was like, oh, something's happened. Yeah, it definitely helps. He would get kava from us all the time, and we had this funny experience. One time they wanted to get kava, but they didn't have anybody to come and pick it up. So we drove it out to where they were filming for this movie out in Waiuku. And they said, oh, yeah, come have some kava with us. Okay. But it was at this moment when some of the All Blacks dudes had just turned up, because Jason Momoa loves rugby. And they were like tripping out on Jason Momoa, but he was tripping out on them. Like there's this moment where we're like, whoa. And we're just like, oh, we got some kava. So that was quite cool. But there's been quite a few well-known musicians. We had kava with The Rock's mom, Ata, in there a few months ago. That was really special. And that was in the Fale Talanoa. It was just quiet, and she was singing and playing the ukulele, and it was beautiful. So we appreciate that kind of thing. But also at the same time, and I learned this from early days of going to Fofo'anga. You check your status and your ego at the door. We don't care who anybody is. The Pope could walk through. We're going to say, sit on the ground and have kava with us. And I think people who come in who have that status out in society, oh, give me your autograph. When they come into Four Shells, there's none of that. So that's one of our principles.
But the last question I have for you is, what message would you like to share with people who have never tried kava or visit the Four Shells Kava Lounge before? Where can our listeners and followers find, first of all, Four Shells Kava Lounge, and stay updated in upcoming events from you guys?
Yeah, we have. We're active on the social media, mostly on Instagram. So that's at Four Shells Kava. Facebook. We have a website, fourshellskava.co.nz, and yeah, we post stuff. Yeah, if you follow on Instagram, that's probably the best place. Yeah.
And the message to anyone that's going to be watching or listening that's never tried kava before.
Yeah, take most things you've heard about it and question those things. You know, people, the narrative is muddy water, it doesn't taste nice, it's this, that. Challenge yourself to think of it in that way. Like I said, it's not just the drink. It's the drink, but also the things that happen around it. Embrace the bitterness and enjoy the sweetness of the talanoa.
Thank you very much. And that was Todd Henry, the one of the co-founders. I think the main boss is in New Zealand.
Yeah,
right?
the Pulelahi.
Yeah, the Pulelahi is in New Zealand of Four Shells Kava Lounge. So if you're in Auckland, go down to Victoria Park. It's even if you just want to just go after listening or watching this just to experience kava for the first time, or just go to see what the whole conversation is about, please do. And if you are lucky enough to be in there and you see Todd, ask him about kava and you will be informed about everything when it comes to kava. So like he said, he has an answer for everything. So please ask all your questions. If you have any questions and you're over there at the Four Shells Kava Lounge in Victoria Park, please do ask Todd. Thank you, Todd, for being here.
Malo lahi, eh?
Mahalo, Pito.